QDN News. Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to play within the community. Acknowledgement for people with disability by Queenslanders with Disability Network. QDN also acknowledges people with disability who have come before us and died in institutional settings, as well as those who are still trapped in institutions or silenced by institutional practices. We take on the responsibilities of being clear about the rights of all people with disability and, where necessary, speak in an informed and considered manner for those who cannot speak for themselves.
Hello and welcome to the QDN News. My name is Michelle Moss and I am the CEO of QDN. We've seen that the federal government has handed down their budget this week, so we wanted to provide a bit of an update about what's in that budget in terms of a focus on disability, give you a bit of an update on what's happening around the NDIS review and those reforms and what QDN has been up to. So people may have seen that the budget has some specific things around the NDIS and a significant commitment to some money to go with that. That has a focus on fraud, on quality and safeguards, on the establishment of an evidence advisory committee, and also on the design of the navigator role. And QDN, of course, welcomes all of these things, but it's really important in how they're going to be co-designed and the implementation of those that includes Queenslanders with disability. The budget's got a range of other things in place around cost of living, around housing, around health, employment and domestic and family violence and disaster preparedness. So I just want to touch on a couple of those. Particularly for cost of living, there's some energy relief and rebates in people's bills. However, we know that for people with disability, higher energy costs related to disability and disability needs is significant, and we're disappointed that that hasn't been addressed. The income support measures that have been put in place around job seeker and the rental assistance are really welcomed, and we appreciate seeing those. And I think importantly though, there are no adjustments to the disability support pension, and we really want to see about the design of those reforms around job seeker to make sure that people with disability aren't then stuck in the system of job seeker when they're eligible and should be moving to the disability support pension. QDN welcomes the investment around disability employment. There's $227.6 million around a disability employment program, and there's some money in there for a National Centre of Excellence, which is great to see as a start, but we also want to see strategies and measures that will help employers in their work to become more inclusive workplaces and through their recruitment and support processes. We were disappointed that there was a lack of funding for increasing individual advocacy. This is a critical service for people with disability that's already under a lot of pressure and demand, and particularly as we are about to see the government's responses to the Disability Royal Commission and the NDIS review. We know that this, along with what needs to happen in housing, health, domestic and family violence, disaster preparedness and other mainstream services, that it is critical that investment supports the development and implementation of those recommendations and strategies. QDN welcomes the additional funding and focus around housing and the $6.2 billion, particularly around social housing, the rental assistance program and building more infrastructure, and it is critical that this is accessible and inclusive for people with disability. It's great to see some more Medicare urgent care clinics being included, some more investment around mental health, and the pharmaceutical benefits scheme is a positive news for people with disability. But we know that more needs to be done to ensure that people with disability can access primary general practice, and particularly the challenges that they experience with the lack of services in clinics who are bulk billing. There's been some additional funding for the National Disability Abuse and Neglect Hotline, as well as the Complaints Resolution Referral Service, but we know that hands-on, on-the-ground support for people with disability is what is needed, and we see that this is still a critical gap and an ongoing issue for Queenslanders with disability. Queensland Government is doing some work at the moment with the sector around the foundational support service system, which is part of the NDIS review, and work that both Commonwealth and state and territory governments have committed to. QDN's been asked to do some initial work with people with disability and their families and carers over the next few weeks. And National Disability Services will be working with providers, and Queensland Advocacy for Inclusion will be working with the advocacy space and sector to get input into some initial thinking about what needs to be considered around foundational supports for Queensland and the important role that they are going to play as part of the broader disability reforms. So there's more information and we will continue to make sure that members are kept up to date. Please check out the more detailed information about the budget, other policy work that has been happening, and opportunities to have your say and engage in what is happening around disability. Thank you.